Too many cliched characters pursuing different storylines. Eventually, they're bound to intersect, but in this incoherent chapter one, they're stilted, unstructured, and confusing. That's Susan Granger of SSG Syndicate. Talking about our feature film this week. That's right, Kevin Costner, risking it all, or virtually it all. Horizon, an American Saga, chapter one, is in theaters right now. So, Costner really bet on himself big. We'll discuss that in just a second. Our old movie this week, Harry dialing up first for last week's guest, Dan Stanzik, Enemy of the State. It's one of his favorites. So Harry knocked it out on a recent plane ride. We'll get his thoughts on Gene Hackman, Will Smith getting after it. Next week, we're going to talk First Reformed, which we're continuing our Paul Schrader Fest here. So I want to give Harry a week to watch it. It's a great, great film. So all of you have a week to watch it as well. And the big news is Sam Morril, You've Changed. His new comedy special, July 9th on Amazon. Guy's hysterical. He's a Knicks diehard. And unbeknownst to me, when Pam and his PR team reached out to me, well, the backstory I'll give it to you now. Cody texted me a month ago, just said, Sam Morril wants in the pod. And I said, does he know who I am? And he said, I'll ask his peeps. And the response was, he knows who Adnan is, and he loves movies. He's a big movie guy. So, okay, done. So we book him, and then I have Harry on the email chain, and Harry tells me last week, hey, by the way, I know Sam. I go, really? And he goes, yeah, I worked for like 2 years on the NBA pod. Oh, my God. So it was a great reunion for Harry, who went by the nickname HDH, which we will explain when you hear the interview. So HDH and Sam, and of course, I got to hang with Sam. And you know, this happens though, as Harry, someone says, you know, this guy's a big basketball fan. This guy's a big movie fan. You're like, what are we going to get with this? I used to get this all the time. Be like, oh, you're a big movie guy. You know, how great is Booty Call? And I'm like, that's not really the kind of movie I see, with respect to the Wayans brothers. So when I hear Sam Morril's a movie guy, I go, okay, let's see what he's got. And I had looked up on Reddit film noir, but I was floored that he literally turned his camera around and goes, look, out of the past. He's a giant movie poster of one of my favorite movies, the great Robert Mitchum film. Let me start talking Third Man, all the rest of it. Legit movie guy, which you knew going in.
No, he really is. And one of the things that he's just got an amazing memory for old stuff. When I used to work with them, they would be bullshitting afterwards. And he would remember a Carson set, like a clip or a punchline from a Carson set from 1984, and like pull it up like we were talking about sports clips. He loves that stuff.
And a true Knicks diehard. If you're a basketball fan, I got to get him and Ben Lyons together to have a conversation, because they're as Knicks diehards as it gets. Thanks once again, by the way, to Dan Sands, who came on last week. My old producer from Cinephile did a great job. He was very funny. I loved his NBA owner comparison for me and his review of Double Jeopardy, which sadly did not resonate, I think, as much with people, but it's a movie he likes and he wanted people to check it out. Let's get into Horizon and all the rest. Also, by the way, Inside Out 2. I got to talk about that. It's been had last week off, so that's why I didn't get around to discussing it yet. But context for Horizon. Budget apparently the $100 million range. If you don't know the story, Kevin Costner said he spent around $38 million of his own money to finance the production. And he wanted to do a 4-part series called Horizon. And he's put $38 million into the first 2 parts. They're currently shooting the 3rd part, although he's kind of made it clear that isn't enough money to really finish the 3rd one. And then he's hoping to get enough money for the 4th one. So let's think how risky this is. 4-part series, 2 are in the can, 3, let's call it halfway through. And the 4th one he can't do because he doesn't have the money yet. So you better hope it's going to work, right? And I got a big standing ovation at Cannes. Everything gets standing ovation at Cannes. How to do the box office. And I knew. Harry and I discussed this already. I'm like, in today's market where it's tough to make any movie that hits, even if you're Kevin Costner, big-time movie star, but he's not Kevin Costner in 1987. This isn't The Untouchables. This is now 2024 Kevin Costner. I like him. I'm a big fan of him. I think he's a great actor. I've met him. Field of Dreams game. MLB Network 3 years ago. Wonderful guy. Class act. Very cool. California cool, one might say. I think we discussed Sean Connery, as a matter of fact. I'm trying to think of the interview. I definitely mentioned Untouchables, Sean Connery. I didn't bring up Waterworld. I'm rooting for him. But if you told me, Harry, I'm going to make a movie with my own money, and I'm going to make a Western, I'd go, Western in today's market, huh? Unless it's Yellowstone. Oh, you are the guy from Yellowstone. Okay, I got that, but this isn't Yellowstone. And you want like how long is it? It's 3 hours. Oh my! Oh, that's gonna be tough for you. I mean, listen, I love Scorsese, but Killers of the Flower Moon didn't light it up at the box office. It did okay. Got Oscar nomination. No, we're gonna go 3 hours, and I want to make 4 parts. So hang on a second. We're looking for 12 hours. I was Kevin. This is not a good idea. And wait, this is your own money? No, it's okay if Martin Scorsese gets Netflix to pay for it. That's fine. The Irishman. Hey, go ahead. It's your money. You're gonna put your own money. No, you shouldn't do this. He did it. With all that being said, you want to take a guess what it grossed at this opening weekend?
Oh, I mean, I didn't even realize it came out. So 24 mil.
So the budget's in the $100 million range. He spent around $38 million for parts 1 and 2. Opening weekend of Horizon, which you didn't even know it was out this weekend. And we have July 4th weekend coming up, which is always big, definitely for kids' movies. Despicable Me 4 is opening up this weekend, which I'm sure I'll have to take my kids to. So it was a soft opening weekend. There's nothing else out there, really competition. $11 million.
Oh God,
Dude, that is a disaster. We're not going to get to 25. This is a $100 million movie.
You're not getting your money back on snacks. Like that's the crafts table is like 11 mil.
I love his chutzpah. He's an absolute icon, but this is insane. This was his quote to Entertainment Weekly before the movie came out. I live with movies. What happens to them on their opening weekend? If we put so much pressure on that, we're bound to be disappointed. I'm really happy that Horizon looks like what it's supposed to look like, and that's the way it'll look like the rest of its life. And that's really important to me in this process. What do his 7 kids think right now? My man's got 7 kids. Hey guys, I spent $38 million. You guys could have been richer than rich, but I had to make this Western. Dad, you've already done Westerns. You don't need Field of Dreams. Or excuse me, you already did Dance with Wolves. You won an Oscar. Yeah. Open Range. Yeah. You want to, enough. 4 more you want to keep making? I got to do it. I'm 65. I'm divorced twice. I got to do it. All right, Dad, whatever he says. As long as I got some money for college still. Okay, so how's the movie itself? Enough mocking of how it. By the way, Michael Rooker's in the movie. He was asked with the box office defeat. His quote was, "Get over that shit." Well, it's okay if it's not your money, Michael. I mean, yeah, okay, fine. How was it as an actual movie? Again, I'm fired up. I'm excited to go see it last night, and it's got great old school score. And Ford, I think, is a real influence on Costner, meaning John Ford, of course, Stagecoach and The Searchers and all those great John Wayne movies. And Costner is a talent, there's no doubt. But it did not work as a standalone movie. And in the first hour, first I'm kind of waiting for him to show up. He shows up after an hour, and he's always good and convincing. Although I will admit, I'd kind of like Kevin Costner to lose his mind a little bit. Like now I already know what his character is going to be: taciturn, stoic, quiet, dignified, heroic. I'm like, I want to see it like a villain, like Mr. Brooks, like a serial killer, or like just a crazy over the top kind of guy. Because I'm like, I always just know I'm going to get Kevin Costner refined, restrained, but it's fine. It's comfortable watching him on the screen. He's a great actor. You have other people. Sam Worthington shows up, but it's a really disjointed movie. Like for a 3-hour Western that's part 1 of 4, I'm thinking, okay, we're going to hit the ground running, but no. And it's really hard to structure all these different stories, but there's basically 4 different storylines, and you're just kind of dropping in on different conversations with each of them. There's no real through line. Now, if we get to episode 4, and if I get to watching 12 hours of this saga, I'll be able to tell you what the hell was happening. But I came out of it thinking there's interesting moments. There's a great gunfight. There's a cool duel that Costner has with someone. There's a rather attractive woman in a corset, but I've enjoyed that scene. But there's moments that I'm enjoying. But as a 3-hour film, my butt was tired when I got out of that theater, and I said, "Man, when's episode 2 coming out? August 4th. Okay, I'm gonna get a month to relax and rest up for this. I'm giving it 2 Maple Leafs. I understand a film is part of a saga, but Harry, it's got to work on its own merit. If you just watch The Empire Strikes Back, even if you don't know the other movies, you go, hey, this is still a really good movie. You can't say, well, you have to watch the other 4. On its own merit, it has to stand. And I don't think for Horizon, he's standing on 2 feet, or in this instance, 4 feet, because he's sitting on a horse. Not great news for Kevin Costner. All right, give us Enemy of the State before I give you Inside Out 2.
Well, I watched it on an airplane. And
what was the impetus for watching it, by the way?
The impetus was I saw that it came out in 1998, and I was intrigued by the idea of an NSA style movie coming out before 9/11. Because I was like, oh, I wonder what they got right. Like, a lot of people, much hay has been made about the surveillance state after the Patriot Act, after 9/11. Like, I wonder if it's one of those movies where they nail it. Did they not? Or is it totally insane? And I gotta say, on that category, they nailed it. Like, a lot of the anxiety around a surveillance state is articulated in this movie. There is even like basically the contours of a deep state that like is going around killing people. So if you're a QAnon believer, you're kind of like, see, in 1998 they knew it.
A film that is dedicated to QAnon believers 26 years later. That's amazing.
Yeah, there you go, ahead of its time. Mm-hmm. What I was left with was I forgot that Will Smith was a movie star at one point, like a real proper movie star. Mm-hmm. And he it's this type of movie we talk later with Sam about movies that don't get made anymore. Mm-hmm. This sort of falls into it in a way that it is, it's not new IP. It's not a Marvel movie or whatever, but it has that. It's an action movie, but then in the middle of it, Will Smith is going to have like three sort of like silly punchlines, like his wife gets mad at him, and he's like, "I can never win with you," or some kind of like little punchline like that, which in this movie makes no sense because he's like getting targeted by assassins, and then his wife is mad at him, and he's like takes 10 minutes to get her to forgive her. It's like, you are gonna get assassinated. You need to run away.
I appreciate the multitasking. Let's focus on what's most important right now.
Right. But I gotta say, I liked it. I mean, I liked that it was I liked the sci-fi of it. I think they nailed it. And then I liked the Will Smith running away, doing action movie stuff, and then occasionally throwing a punchline in it. It reminded me of the first Iron Man. That nice. Kind of balance.
No, that's high praise.
Have you seen it?
Enemy of the State. I don't think I've ever seen it. Stanzik was a huge fan of it. I just like Gene Hackman. I said, if I'm going to watch this movie, it'd be for Gene Hackman, but I had never gotten around to it. But you'd recommend it for what it was.
I would definitely recommend it if you like conspiracy movies, which I do. If you are looking for a straightforward action movie, it's not. I wouldn't recommend it as that. There's not a lot of fun action.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. Enemy of the State available right now on airplanes, and I'm sure available on a streaming service right now.
Right, exactly.
Let's quickly do Inside Out 2. We went long with Sam, so I want to give Sam his due. We went a good 30, 35 minutes with him. So Inside Out 2, listen, the first one was great, very smart film, and I thought really worked well for parents and children. That's always the theme here. When it comes to a kid's movie, is it something that will entrance not only the children, but also the parents? I thought Inside Out did so. Pixar obviously known for making a lot of great films over the years because it was smart, it was refreshing, and touching. So Inside Out 2, sequels are generally never as good as the first one, and that is still the case now. But I enjoyed it. It does follow the typical sequel template, which is just more. Everything's more. So more characters, more laughs, more hilarity, more touching moments. It doesn't matter what the sequel is. They just do more. Whether it's Back to the Future 2, Godfather 2, Empire Strikes Back, we'll just make it more. We'll make it longer, add more characters, add storylines, go backstories, prequels, etc. That's what Inside Out 2. And Inside Out 2, the big character, anxiety. That's a new emotion right now. Perfect for 2024. Anxiety, as I do my George Carlin. You've still got Lewis Black as Rage. He's fantastic. You've still got, the array of characters, but anxiety really is key. Amy Poehler is Joy, still fun, perky, etc. But Maya Hawke as anxiety. And I kept thinking the whole movie, by the way, it was Emma Stone. I said, it's got to be Emma Stone. The way she's talking, I go, that's no way. It was Maya Hawke. She was great. You still got Phyllis Smith as Sadness. Tony Hale as Fear. A couple of new characters, though, as well. And my favorite one, I don't know how to pronounce her name. It's Adele. The last name I can't pronounce. She plays Ennui. As soon as I found out there's a movie with a character who's Ennui, Ennui, with a nod to all the French, just blah, blah. I'm not too caring about anything. I'm like, that's pretty funny. There's a character named Ennui in a movie. Paul Walter Hauser, of course, the terrific actor. He plays Embarrassment, also new actor. We've got Emby in the movie, Ayo Edebiri. So again, more. But really, it's about anxiety. Now, Riley, the hockey player, is still getting it done. It's a pretty good hockey movie because she's trying to make the college team now, has a lot of stress, and anxiety takes over, basically pushes aside Joy and the rest of those other characters. Right. And anxiety is what's fueling Riley towards making the hockey team. And as we all know in life, anxiety can be a good thing in some ways when channeled, if you focus all that energy and try to push it in a positive manner. But of course, it can be very destructive and very tough to deal with when the anxiety overwhelms you, which the movie does a really good job of doing. So I enjoyed it. I thought particularly there's an anxiety attack scene I thought was really done very well. I mean, I would almost say it was done too well. I got kids looking at me like, what's going on right now? Like that's called an anxiety attack. But it was really well done. And I thought it was smart. And at least most Pixar movies, I think, are done that way. But quick, which I always appreciate, 90 minutes, in and out. So in and out for Inside Out 2. I'll give it 3 Maple Leafs. I think it's a good kids film. I'm sure, as usual, will be nominated for an Oscar and all the rest of it. And good voice work across the board. Inside Out 2, currently in theaters. All right, enough out of me. Let's get to our special guest. All right, what a pleasure bringing Sam Morril. You've changed. Make sure you check it out on Amazon July 9th. It's hysterical. 46 minutes of really funny stuff. Chris Cody, who is the former producer of Cinephile and executive producer of the Dan Le Batard Show, texted me a month ago. Says, hey, Sam Morril wants in your pod. I said, one guy, he's great. One question, does he know who I am? He wrote back, this is the response from his peeps. Sam knows who Adnan is, and he knows movies. This is a perfect segue to how we bring in Sam, because one of the best jokes in his new special, which again is tremendous, is he describes his friend saying he doesn't like Trump because he's a malignant narcissist. And Sam goes, "What does that mean?" And your buddy said, "Well, it means he only likes people that like him." I go, "I guess I'm a malignant narcissist then." And as you say in the bit, if Putin was like, "Sam Morril's new special is amazing," I go, "You know what? Putin, kind of a complicated guy." With that as introduction,
you nailed it. Usually when people repeat jokes to me, they fuck up the wording or something. You got it perfect.
But it's great to chat with you, man. I know we have similar interests, obviously, huge sports fans, and I thought your special was amazing. And obviously, a movie guy. Man. So let's do the movies first, because that's the way
I'm such a movie guy that I just moved into a new apartment. Look at this. That's an Out of the Past poster.
Okay, oh my God, dude, you stole it out of my mind. So I looked up, I read it. I go, okay, what kind of movies does Sam Morril like? And somebody wrote film noirs, and I go, I really hope he likes Out of the Past and Robert Mitchum, because that's my favorite film noir actor.
That's my number one of all time too. And you want to know what my number two is? Hold on. This is a mess right now because I just moved it. This is probably my number two right here.
Oh, Double Indemnity. I read a book about Double Indemnity. Had the authors on the pod. I'm going to send you the book. That's unbelievable.
I love it.
Edward G. Robinson is keys. You know how I know? My little man tells me, which the author told me is really like a sexual joke. It's like my little man is his dick. And that's the whole joke.
Really?
Like, yeah. They were trying to get past the censors. And that's why.
That went over my head. And that was a dick joke too. But no, I love that one. I have like Third Man in the other room.
Oh my God, dude,
I love Orson Welles. Yeah. I love something about old movies, and I get shit for this from some friends, but I'm like, dude, the fact that a movie like Double Indemnity was written almost 100 years ago and it holds up, and it's a better script than anything you see today in Hollywood, doesn't that fucking tell you something?
Oh, correct.
Like, it's a beautiful thing. So yeah, it's funny that you love noir too, but it's crazy. Out of the Past. It's the most underrated of all the noirs.
It's incredible.
And I'm gonna get Laura right there.
Yeah, Laura's an all-timer. When Mitchum died, I remember Scorsese said, he goes, Robert Mitchum was film noir. He's like, if you watch those movies, so the heavy hooded eyelids and the way he underplays things and the obviously the fedora, but Out of the Past specifically is incredible. Like that. God, I got to give you the book. There's a Mitchum biography called Baby I Don't Care, which is a line from Out of the Past. Yeah, when she says to him,
baby,
I've done some bad things, but baby, I don't care. Like that. That's the title. It's an incredible book, dude. If you like Mitchum, it's all about his life and just like he was quintessential film noir. And Roger Ebert did a great review of it years ago. He said, all the great films Out of the Past. He said one of the biggest laughs when they show it now in theaters is a scene, I think, where Mitchum's smoking and Kirk Douglas goes, cigarette? And Mitchum gives like I already got one. Like it's so clever and so smart in all the details. It's amazing.
Yeah, there was a quote. I forgot what book it was in, but they described these movies as being like B movies. Like they weren't the movies that Hollywood cared about. Yeah. Meanwhile, they're better than the A movies that were coming out. But they said, we didn't have lighting because they were low budget. We used the cigarettes, So
one of the best lines from Double Indemnity, by the way, is when Edward G. Robinson goes, I always thought you a little, because all along I thought you were smarter, but it's not true. You're just a little taller. Which Billy Wilder is also a short guy as a director. Like he was putting a lot of his stuff in the movie. It's so good.
Yeah, that's kind of the perfect. Everyone says Chinatown's the best movie script ever, but I think it's Double Indemnity. I think it's probably, as far as scripts go, it's number one, I think.
And since you mentioned The Third Man, I adore Paul Giamatti. Giamatti was on a podcast, Happy, Sad, Confused. My buddy Josh Horowitz does work with MTV. And Horowitz said, what movie ending always makes you cry? And Giamatti said The Third Man. And I hadn't seen it in a long time. So I watched it again. Sam, I'm telling you, that is as good an ending as you will ever get. That wide shot, Joseph Cotton walking, and she's coming to frame. He's having the smoke, hoping she stops. After Orson Welles is literally killing people on the black market, and he's trying to go with her ex. It's as beautiful as it gets, man. I love The Third Man.
Women like bad guys. They don't like the good guy, That's what that comes down. That's the whole ending. That's why you cry. Yeah. That hit something deep in you where you're like, why? You're probably a good guy. That's probably why it fucked you up.
All right. We've established film noir as a commonality. Let's get into the comedy.
Yeah.
I know, listen, I've been around comedians. You guys are the best. Some stuff is true. Some stuff is exaggeration. I hope this is true, so I just want confirmation. You tell a story about a woman who texted you a picture of a guy getting blown and a finger up his ass and said, do you want me to do this to you? You're on a plane and said, if I could, I'd turn this back 35,000 feet. Please tell me this actually happened.
Of course, yeah.
Okay, can I get her number?
You're not going to want it because she's nuts. But the problem is, everyone always comes up to me. There's no way these are true. They're all fucking true. My whole act is true. Occasionally you heighten something slightly for dramatic effect, but yeah, it's all true.
Right.
Every story in that's true. Same goes with, I have a story in an old special about a vigilante. True story. It's all true. I couldn't come up with this shit, or at least I wouldn't be able to deliver it, with enthusiasm if it was fake.
Well, and that's why one of the bits when I was like, okay, this guy clearly does love movies, because you discussed performing cunnilingus on a woman and she reached climax and you equated it to an independent film.
Yes, because she didn't give me a reaction. It's like I say in the indie movies, it's like where you're like, that's it? It just ended? Yeah, it made me think of No Country. I love No Country, but like that's like you know what the hard part of that
this
joke
is the exact line
to
say that how good Sam's joke was. This is like No Country for Old Men with your cooch.
Yeah. But the problem is with that joke is I needed a movie that was big enough that people knew it.
Yeah.
But also not quite, it had to still have that indie feel. And like Coen Brothers is the only one that works. Everyone knows No Country for Old Men, but I definitely do that joke in a couple places. They're like, no, they haven't seen this.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought, they would say it's not indie enough, but you're right. You're trying to go like popular indie enough, which would be the Coen Brothers. Imagine if you said like a Hudsucker Proxy, they'd have no idea what you're talking about.
You have to go broad.
Right.
And that was the problem with that. Yeah.
It's a great line. There's other great references and jokes that Sam makes with the fact that men are never paid for masturbation ads. The fact that you don't judge public masturbators, and Chick-fil-A, the fact that they're an anti-gay movement without context. It's like, I just want to make it clear, you guys do sell chicken. Like, I don't know why this is important. You just want to make it clear you're not supporting gay marriage.
Well, yeah, that was the only reason I did that joke is because I kind of went with other stuff. It's an old story, but it went with other stuff that is more current, like the Bud Light thing. I wanted to make fun of both sides. The Bud Light thing, everyone with Dylan Mulvaney, we're so outraged, but then you have people like, Chick-fil-A. What happened to leading with the product instead of pandering to a base? I think that was kind of what I was going for,
right? With
both, kind of trying to mock both sides with this,
Well, there's a great joke, and I don't want to spoil this one, so you're gonna have to watch Sam Morril. You've changed on Amazon. I'll just say it's about a trans troll. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But it was so clever the way you wrote it, and it made me think about Chappelle and all.
That's another 100% true joke.
Oh no, I could tell the ring of authenticity was true, and your line was so good. And I said, Chappelle faced a lot of heat about this, and my dear friend Scott Spinelli, who is your biggest fan, he said to me, he goes, Chappelle's taking all this heat. Have you actually watched the jokes he's made about trans? I said, I haven't. He goes, this is the thing. People latch on to one element, right? This liberal community, and all of a sudden go, oh, these jokes are offensive, etc. He goes, unless you watch the joke, and if you tell me you're offended by it, fine, by all means. He said, but there's becomes this movement of, I don't want to sound like Seinfeld right now saying it can't be funny anymore with PC movement, et cetera. But I wonder how you navigate the difficulty of saying, I've got something that actually happened to me, which did piss me off, which I can't actually tell in a funny way, but it's trans community. Chappelle took shit from the trans community. Can I make this joke? How do you navigate that?
Well, is it funny and is it not malicious? Like, I'm not making fun of this person for being trans. I'm making fun of the fact that there's a double standard that only applies to me, and this person's exempt from that. If anything, I'm treating this person like I would treat anyone else. So I think if you're doing that, then that's not offensive at all. I think it would be offensive to do otherwise. I had a guy in my audience over the weekend in Rochester. I kind of will roast people at the end of shows sometimes and just, kind of tell me a problem and I'll make fun of you. And I had a guy in the front row, got shot 4 times and was in a wheelchair. And I tore him to fucking shreds, and he was loving it because everyone else probably in his regular life is on eggshells. You in a wheelchair? To me, I said, I bought him 3 shots, and I said, it's not like you're driving home, So he loved that shit. And when you get treated like other people, I mean, how could that be offensive? Although, to Amazon, it is offensive. They won't use that as a promotional thing. They said this doesn't represent Amazon. I'm like, well, it actually does because it's on your platform, but fair enough. It doesn't represent. I'm sorry, it wasn't a pregnant woman not allowed to use a bathroom during a shift.
But to your point, when Christopher Reeve suffered that horrific accident, his son, Will Reeve, told me years later at ESPN, he goes, the guy who he loved the most is Robin Williams. I said, no, he goes, but you want to know why? He said, everybody was on eggshells, and Robin Williams went in there and just tore him to shreds. He just started making fun of him. He was roasting him. He literally was like, what's with the spinal cord thing? Was he got a bad necktie here like that? He was treating him the way he would normally. Yeah. And if you're in a situation like that, hey, don't pity me. Don't feel sorry for me. Like, let's be friends as we would normally. So I liked your approach.
Comedy doesn't work. I mean, look, if I'm riffing, I'm never going to be careful, because if I'm careful, it doesn't work. With a bit along this subject matter, you have to take word choice into account a little carefully, just to make it hit as hard as possible.
Right.
So if I go here in this type of subject matter, I want the joke to crush, and I want to make sure every part of it is perfect. So I'll make little changes. I'll sub out words here and there, but with a joke that is like maybe a topic that could get me shit, I'm gonna work a little more carefully, not in a way like more in a way like I want it to be so bulletproof that if they get mad, they just sound dumb.
Sam Morril, you've changed. July 9th, Amazon. You may not have been the first guy to do it, but it does feel like you've ushered in this wave of comics taking control of their own destiny, right? Releasing self-funded specials on YouTube, getting big numbers, then moving to streamers. How'd you do it?
Well, yeah, my road was a little different than other people, because I was on Comedy Central. I had 2 Comedy Central specials before I went to YouTube, but it wasn't really like that innovative. It was more that everyone just said no to me. So I remember when HBO was like, they passed on my I was like, man, this is like my best special to date at the time. I was so proud of it. And they just were like, I get a lot of like, he's just a white guy. And I was like, so if I got molested, you would have bought it? Like, I need like a hook, I get a lot of that shit. And I was like, I'm not one of those guys who fixates. I'm like, I don't give a shit. I was just like, you guys just sound so out of touch. Like, it's just so, and by the way, I'd watch your shows. It'd be like Succession, Barry. I'm like, not a lot of diversity on those, but for stand-up, I guess they cared. So Barry, I'd be like, you got like one black character and you cut her out immediately. It was almost like, ooh, we cast her by accident. And then, with HBO, it really worked to my advantage. I think I was pretty upset. And then once the feeling of rejection kind of washes away, you kind of just think, all right, what do I do? And luckily I had an agent who really was like, she wasn't short-sighted in my career. And, she thought YouTube was the only option. At the time, YouTube specials were not usually, there was a couple exceptions, but they usually weren't popping. And I got lucky that it came out February 2020 because everyone was at home, but I got unlucky because I couldn't tour off it. So
there's the rub.
So there was good and bad, but you want people at your shows who get what it makes writing so much easier. As I said, I was just in Rochester, New York over the weekend. I did 5 shows. They're my people. So I'm really I feel like I'm really making progress on new jokes because they're patient with me and I can fuck around. That being said, I'm never going to go out there and give them a bad show, but you do want to, I say, hey, I'm going to experiment. And so while I'm bombing with new shit, sometimes I'll say, it's going to be good. I promise. I'm going to give you at least a hot 30 in a row. That's just killer, but let me get through this. So when I come here, it's a different hour next year, Well,
you mentioned the writing process. Do you find, you seem very dedicated. I imagine you're like Seinfeld. You write every day.
I do, but I don't know what Jerry's process is really, but I'll do stuff every day. I don't know if writing, it's not like I'm just sitting at a computer and writing every day. I'll edit, I'll do other stuff. It's not just coming up with bits. That's the fun part.
Yeah.
But the editing can be fun. Listening to sets is my least favorite part of it, but it's necessary because you just have to, especially with a newer bit. I have a new bit I'm working on about this. It's a dirty joke, but it's about I think it's called a vacuum glide, which I only know what it is because they reached out to be a podcast sponsor, but it's essentially a $1,000 dick sucking machine. And I'd never heard of it, but my friend Mark and I, we were like, this is a little lowbrow. And then they offered to send us vacuum glides. Yeah. And we were like, let's give it a shot. And, but we get to the studio and they only sent us one. Oh. And we were like, oh, fuck. So you kind of have to so I had this whole thing where it was B. And then I was like, well, what else is funny about this? I'm kind of pick each night I'm adding a line. One line was about it sounds like they, started a vacuum and then one of the scientists just kind of rolled the dice. Yeah. So there's another line. Then there's another line about I started looking up reviews. It's you start adding, where can I add to this joke? And I started reading reviews and one of the reviews was it's so good that it's going to be hard to go back to humans. And I'm like, that's a problem that like we're ruling out, we're weaning out humans. So it kept going on and on.
Right.
And I just kept adding a line here and a line. And that was kind of like, with a bit like that, I have to listen to see which parts hit, which parts don't.
Yeah.
Sub in a new one. And your whole set, when I'm doing old shit, I'm almost on autopilot, just like excited to get to the new shit.
Yeah. It's amazing, the craft of it. A couple more for you. Let's bring in the fact that Harry, my man, a new producer here in Cinephile, we're getting along great, Sam, and here's why. About a month in, I said, whatever movies you see as well, let me know. It's not just me watching Out of the Past. And he goes, well, I just watched Crash over the weekend. I said, oh, the Oscar winner. He goes, no, the other one. I go, the David Cronenberg film where they have sex and they're turned on by car crashes. I go, we're definitely discussing that. I said, we're clearly kindred spirits. And then I said, if you like that, you're going to like the film Autofocus, one of my favorites. Paul Schrader. Right.
I don't know it.
Oh, you've got to see. It's about a Greg Kinnear plays a sex addict, Bob Crane, who was the star of Hogan's Heroes. And it's a relationship between him and Willem Dafoe, Carpenter was Crane. And when Harry and I were discussing, he's one of those lines that was so funny. It's got 3 or 4 of the greatest dick jokes ever. And one of the lines is, I've got a heart on the size of Florida. So I said, well, Harry, you're clearly going to fit in well. And then when he mentioned that he knew you, I said, oh my God, you worked with Sam on the NBA podcast, you knew Stav, all the rest of it. He then texted me last night. Sam had a potentially lewd nickname for me called HDH. I said, well, I'm hoping it's lewd, and I'd like you to explain what it means.
Stav came up with it. I can't take credit for it. Stav started calling him Hard Dick Harry. And then it just kind of turned into HDH. It just became a nickname. Stav is just crude in like a creative, beautiful way. And yeah, it just turned into HD. We didn't call him Harry. We just was like, hey, HDH.
And now he'll be known as HDH here in Cinephile. So thanks to you and stuff.
I'm realizing it now. If this was like written in a document, if Harry tries to Me Too us, we're gonna sound like pieces of shit. if he writes a thing and he's like, they called me Hard Dick Harry. I was just trying to do my job. I'm gonna sound pretty bad, but
you already see it like in italics in the New Yorker profile. Go ahead, Harry.
Well, what's funny was after Pod Don't Lie, I got a job with a kind of a network, and it was a little bit more buttoned up, and whatever. It's my first thing like that. I'm doing well. And a few weeks in, one of our video editors like texts me out of the blue, and he's like, hey man, like, do you go by Big Dick Harry? I was like, well, first of all, I go by Hard Dick Harry. Second of all, no, and I had to be like, no, it's these guys, they call me that. It's not my real nickname, all this stuff. But that was like, I'm trying to, go legit, and I've got the Pod Don't Lie following me.
You're like Robert Mitchum Out of the Past. You're trying to go straight, but you can't. Because
exactly.
The past is catching up to him. Everyone knows you're a diehard Knicks fan. You must be just over the moon. Mikal Bridges and your son OG. And by the way, Hartenstein, my man Ben Lyons, of course, you must know, diehard Knicks fan. I said to him, Hartenstein's gone. I said, he's going to get overpaid like you wouldn't believe. So I was not surprised by $29 million a year for Hartenstein. But Bridges and your son OG, you got to be thrilled.
Huge. I knew Hartenstein wasn't coming back. This is the rough one, but I DM'd him a week ago, and because he liked me because I defended him on a lot of shows.
Nice.
So I DM'd him and was like, after one of the big wins, he tried to high five me at one of the games.
Nice. During
the playoffs, and Chris DiStefano and his cop friend, who's like 350 pounds of pure muscle, got in front of me to try to intercept it, and Hartenstein was like, and he ran away. He DMs me after the game. 2 dumbasses were in front of me. I tried to high five you. I show it to Chris. I go, you're the dumbass. You cost me a playoff high five, you idiot. So I said, you got to come to the cellar, the Comedy Cellar in the off season. He's like, I'm there. And then I messaged him like a week ago. I'm like, all right, this is my chance to tamper. I get him at the Comedy Cellar. I'll take him to a New York destination.
Right.
And then I said, you got to come through. And he said, I'm in Houston, but I totally would have. And I'm like a woman now, dissecting text. I'm like, would have. Why wouldn't he have just said, but I will in the future?
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, he's not coming back. So I kind of knew he's not coming back. But then I didn't know he was, what the messed up thing is? That I think if they offered him like 4 years, 82, we could have had him. Mm-hmm. But 3 years, 87 is such an absurd amount of money. And they're also a good team. So blessings to Hartenstein. Yes. I was such a fan of his. I loved how he played. I'm excited for Bridges. I'm excited for OG. We need some depth though, because our identity was being really tough and being really getting all those offensive boards, and we lose an amazing rebounder in Hardenstein, and an amazing passer. Like he was a high IQ player.
Yes.
So I mean, we need someone who can do what he does. He made Brunson better. I'm bummed to lose him for sure.
Yeah, he was a player. I'm with you. I'm like, he was underrated in some ways because you go, at that price, what we're getting, when Mitchell Robinson goes down, you go, oh my God, Hardenstein's incredible. But then when I say, wait, $29 million a year, I'm like, yeah, that's probably too much for him. But I'm with you that he's a player that as a fan, you love to have him. But as far as the numbers work, you cannot deny Anunoby on the team versus him not being on the team. Like it was incredible what a difference maker he was, especially the defense.
I love him.
Yeah.
Andy stretches the floor. And I mean, that dunk on Embiid was so fucking cool. I know Embiid was on one leg and it wasn't fair, but like, holy shit, when he threw that down, I was like, oh my God. And Bridges is awesome. And the fact, I think Dante could win Sixth Man of the Year now. I mean, this is like, this guy's a flamethrower off the bench. By the way, Hard Dick Harry, I am sorry about your loss of Klay Thompson. I got to be honest. Yeah. There's like 3 people I think of with the Warriors, and Harry's one of them. And Klay leaving, that sucks. I mean, even though you got the legend of Klay in the Bay Area, it's sad to see a guy who's that beloved in another uniform, because I'm a fan of Klay. And I thought he was awesome for you guys.
Also, sad, Harry, his final game as a Warrior, 0 for 10.
That really hurts, right?
It's all the last. I'm trying to remember the good things, because the last 8 months with all the, there's all these reports coming out too that he was maybe a bit of a baby behind the scenes. But I'm like, to me, he's untouchable. Like there's some people who are upset with him because of what he's doing right now. And to me, I think that's short-sighted. Like he is a Warriors legend. Like he retires right now. He's the 3rd best Warrior of all time. Like I just, to me, he's.
So you're putting KD too?
No, I mean, I was given like a possible spot if you wanted to include like
Baron Davis.
Well, Baron's my favorite Warrior ever for sure.
06.
But if you want to include like Rick Barry or whatever,
okay.
No, I mean, I was ready to say 2. Like,
will the pod ever come back? Can we get Hard to Carry?
Here's what happened. Here's what happens. Stav is so fucking lazy. Like he's not healthy, obviously, and he doesn't go on the road. I mean, he goes on the road so much that I'm like, I worry about his health. Stav, he likes to give me shit for going on the road, but I'm like, dude, I've reached out to him about this because we've gone to games before where people are like, bring it back, and we're still incredibly close. That's the other thing. It's like, it's not like there was a falling out or something. Like I loved working with him. I loved doing stuff with him. I said, let's do it if the Knicks do. Like if the Knicks are really good, he's like, okay, I'm down. Like he says yes, but then he's just like gets tired. And he does his own pod. I do another pod. Like, look, we're not. There's people who are great at sports, and we realize we're not that. That was part of the fun of the pod. It was literally just 2 idiots who know more than you expect. Yeah, but we're not like fucking Sports Center guys, and we're not like, although. You watch ESPN now, we're better than fucking those guys in terms of knowledge. Probably some of them, not like Windhorst or Lowe or something. But there's people on there where you're like, give me a fucking break. But we do like kind of more generic pods. We'll talk about anything. But yeah, we gotta do it. I mean, it's time, and it was fun as hell to do.
Oh, and speaking of other projects, I know you mentioned on a pod in the past you're trying to get a sitcom / show. Maybe you're having trouble of some kind. I don't know how much you want to delve into that. Not PC enough, something like that.
No, it's not even that. I think it's just, it's hard to make shows now because I mean, look at what they're making. They're not making a ton of new comedy shows. That's just kind of how it goes. And I think comedy movies are tough now too. So I have a lot of things I'm working on, a show, a movie. They're coming along. I think they're both going to end up getting made, but it's just, look what it takes for me to sell a stand-up special, and I'm like a fairly established stand-up, and I'm not established in that world. So
Right.
it's going to be a sludge, but it's going to happen. It's just a little extra work.
Yeah, I lament the days that we could just go to the theater and everybody was watching Three Amigos or There's Something About Mary or The Hangover. Like, I mean, any of those big budget comedies, they just don't exist anymore.
But the truth is, I think people are doing that except for live comedy now more than ever. So I'm grateful people are coming to see me at live shows. They still get to laugh in a room, but I'm with you. I mean, I remember Something About Mary in the theater. I saw it 3 times in the theater. I was fucking like a child. I should not have been in there. I don't know how I kept getting in. But Something About Mary is like all time for me. And yeah, I mean, I remember I think the last 2 movies I experienced in a packed theater crushing were like Bridesmaids and The Hangover. Those were like the two that I was like, oh shit, this is like huge, but they just don't do it anymore, and they don't do it because people aren't going. I mean, I think about what do I go see in the theater? I check what's playing at Film Forum or whatever, and I try to see. I mean, I just saw Raiders of the Lost Ark at the Film Forum. I want to see older stuff. I want to see something I know is going to be a killer. Saw Double Indemnity there again recently. Saw Annie Hall there recently. So I end up just going seeing old flicks. So I'm part of the problem, but they're not making new stuff that I feel like all the movies are either like Avengers level budgets or just like we made this for $67. There's no and I miss the kind of middle drama. Like a movie I bring up all the time is like, and I bet you've seen this, is a movie from the 90s I love called A Simple Plan.
Oh yeah. Billy Bob Thornton.
They don't make movies like that anymore. They don't make, so that's not even comedy I'm talking. That's just like a great kind of noir thriller type movie. But look, here's the thing. If I can't make this show through through a stream or something, I will pay to make it at a certain point because I want to make it. I like the idea of making a really good show. And Mark Norman and I wrote a movie that I think is really funny. And I think we wrote it with Noah Garden Schwartz, who wrote for Marvelous Mrs. Maisel for like the whole show. And
love that show.
Esther Steinberg and his wife, the four of us wrote together. I think it's really funny. So we'll see if that goes anywhere, and we'll see if the sitcom goes anywhere. But I'm really happy with both. So I think it's just you got to be patient in that world. Like stand up, I'm fortunate enough that I could say I'm fucking shooting this and put it on YouTube. Yeah. This stuff's a little more expensive, but if it goes like another year or so, I might just say fuck it and do it.
A Simple Plan. I interviewed Billy Bob Thornton years ago. I said, I love that speech you gave when you said, if being rich gets me to kiss a girl, like I'm all for it. And I said, where did you get that from? Billy Bob goes, that was me. Like as a kid, I go, are you kidding? You married Angelina Jolie at one point. He was like, no. He goes, that was me as a kid. And I tapped into that. The fact he's just, grotesque figure, at least in his own mind, the tape and the glasses and the voice and everything. A Simple Plan is unreal. So good pull by you. And you mentioned Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Tony Shalhoub I interviewed years ago, and I love Tony Shalhoub because of the film noir, Coen Brothers, The Man Who Wasn't There. And I told Shalhoub, I said that
really dark, and also Billy Bob.
Yeah, well. Exactly. And Billy Bob, by the way, I said to him, he goes, that's one of my, he goes, aside from Sling Blade, that's probably my favorite movie. And I said, you're so quiet in the movie. You're so, like Mitchum underplayed. You're like so underplaying.
Yeah.
And he goes, honestly, in that movie, I was always talking because when you're playing a character like that, like I had to get the energy out somehow. So when the Coen Brothers would call action, then I would be quiet and receding. He said, but to me, it was like doing one of those classic film noirs with the Coen Brothers sensibility. Gandolfini's great, obviously Francis McDormand, but Shalhoub's amazing. Is Freddie Riedenschneider. I'm an attorney. You're a barber. You don't know anything. Like the way he's so fast talking and whip smart. Like that's one of those films. When he goes, what's a great modern film noir? I tell him, go watch it. Roger Deakins shot it. Of course, the great cinematographer. The Man Who Wasn't There is a great noir.
It's so good. It puts me in it's not, there's a darkness to it that puts me in a bad place. Like, I don't know why that one upsets me more than others, but it's a terrific movie that like, I mean, that speaks to the power of the Coen Brothers, man. They're just like, I mean, they're as good as it gets. So yeah, that one's up there. I think for Coen Brothers, like I don't know if it's even like top 5 Coen Brothers for me because I love the Coen Brothers so much, but I still really like it.
Sure. It's tough to top Fargo and, of course, Barton Fink and No Country, which is referenced in Sam Morril, You've Changed, which is available on Amazon Prime July 9th. Let us know where you're touring. Where are you going to be available? Sal, where can we come see you?
I'm going to start hitting up cities. I'm doing a casino with Chris DiStefano and Nimesh Patel in Hammond, Indiana at the end of July. And then I know random city, but then I'm doing Miami Improv in August. I'm doing Magooby's Comedy Club in Baltimore. I hate that name, but I like the club. So
Yeah.
going back, and then I'm also doing Stretch Factory, New Brunswick, New Jersey. I'm doing
Nice.
a lot of stuff. Yeah, that's a great club. Just trying to do clubs to build back up, and I'll probably start another theater tour in January, February. Going to hit Europe, and September going everywhere, going fucking London, Belfast,
Vienna,
Dublin,
the third man,
Amsterdam.
Yeah.
I unfortunately it's not there, but dude, I recently watched the Bourdain where he went on that.
Yeah.
When he went on that
the third
trolley,
man tour.
whatever it is, dude. It would freak me out to get on that thing. I'm not gonna lie.
Just going to sewer, trying to find Harry Lime.
That's one. If you haven't read it, there's a book called Lunches with Orson.
Okay.
And it's maybe my favorite movie book ever written because Orson Welles is.
Is it Bogdanovich?
No, it's just a younger director.
Okay.
God, I forgot his name, but he's just having lunch with Orson, and it's just conversations they had. And Orson's, or if you watch him anytime on Dick Cavett, he's brilliant. I mean, he's so. There's one interview on Cavett, which like start to finish, it's like this guy knew fucking Churchill. He also met Adolf Hitler, and then he's shit talking Dustin Hoffman. I'm like, man, this guy's life spans a lot of people, you know?
I'm getting it. Peter Biskind, who wrote Easy Riders, Raging Bulls. My Lunches with Orson conversations.
No, he organized it, but he wasn't the one.
He wasn't the guy. Harry Jaglom is the guy.
That's who it was, and he's great. He's a great foil for Orson because he deeply respects him, but he also knows when to call him out on being insane. And Orson is completely inappropriate to people, but he's a genius and maybe like my favorite. Like you think of Dream Dinners, he's on the fucking list, dude. He's phenomenal.
This was phenomenal. Sam Morril, you've changed. July 9th on Amazon. And by the way, when you said you're going to be in Miami, I'm sure you'll go see the Levitard guys, Dan, Stu Gatz, all those guys. When's that going to be?
I don't know.
Okay,
I think it's August 1st through 3rd, I think.
Okay, good. Hopefully go see those boys as well. Sam, this was awesome. I can't thank you enough, man. This was great.
Yeah, anytime. Great talking with you, Adnan. So this was really fun. Great to see you, HDH.
Sam, pleasure as always.
All right, thanks once again to Sam. It was great talking film noir with him, and I got to go get that book, Lunches with Orson. I love the fact he recommended that to me as well. And I mentioned a few of the jokes in the bit, but it was really funny. And as HDH said, he's a genuinely good dude, and hopefully we'll get him again on the podcast. And I'd like to go see him in person. So maybe that little road trip down. Me and Harry got to go to New Brunswick, New Jersey sometime and go see Sam in person and try to get Stav as well. Thanks as always for supporting Cinephile. On next week's podcast, homework for Harry. He's going to go watch First Reform, Ethan Hawke film with Paul Schrader, 2017, and more homework for you as well. And maybe homework for me as well. I'm not sure how excited I am about this, but Eddie Murphy has a new movie out. It's called Beverly Hills Cop, Axel F. It's available on Netflix July 3rd. So let's celebrate this country's independence by watching Eddie Murphy take some more money from Netflix and see what he can do with Beverly Hills Cop. I'm also going to try to squeeze in, for all you Yorgo Lanthimos fans, Kinds of Kindness, which is getting a little polarizing for a guy who's done some big things with The Favorite, certainly. 74% Rotten Tomatoes, only 57% audience score. But you got Emma Stone, Jesse Plemons, Willem Dafoe. It should be interesting. So I'm going to try to squeeze in, although that's 2 hours and 45 minutes. That could be a bear, but we'll get to it. Beverly Hills Cop, Kinds of Kindness, First Reform, all that and more on next week's Cinephile. I'll see you at the movies.